Cool.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Real Estate Millionaires Power Team. Last week, we have an episode, an interview with our investors who are successful on about how do you find a realtor that would help you boost or build your real estate empire. So now I've given you an opportunity to meet a particular realtor that was recommended by a JD Queen investor herself. And about her background is he's a realtor, not just a realtor, but recommended by many. So I've heard about him, and I want you to personally look at him and his status quo. He had he is so ambitious, but he's a go-getter. If you want to really improve and help you along the way, he's the guy. He's very well educated, and he's originally from Niagara region, but you could find him anywhere. So without further ado, let's welcome Dylan Suitor. Here's the promise to you. Hi, Dylan. How are you?
Awesome. How are you?
I'm okay. Good. Thank you. Tell me about you, your humble beginning before you became a realtor.
Well, my parents obviously didn't come from a ton of wealth. They kind of started from scratch, and I always watched my mom. She worked 3 jobs when I was a kid, and I watched that from a young age, 1, 2
Mhm.
years old, toddler, and I kind of watched her just kind of hustle and then really focus on giving back. She's always been really big on helping her clients, and she's always been big into charity and giving back. So she's always wore heart on her sleeve, and I've watched that and taken all the best from that and applied it to my own business. And so I watched her, and I started I technically started a couple of businesses when I was even younger, lawn care and paperboy and all that stuff. I was an entrepreneur from a young age. I think I was 7 when I first started cutting grass, and I was making good money doing that, and I was really hustling. And then I went off and worked for my dad for about 1 year or a summer, I guess I worked, where I was actually employed. And I said, being employed is not for me. I want to be self-employed and business owner.
And
So I changed.
when did you realize that you wanted to become a realtor?
So I got into being a realtor about 3 years ago. So I would have
Yeah.
been 26, and I got into being a realtor to be an investor, to be honest. So I liked the investor route, and there wasn't enough realtors out there that I felt that I could trust for investing.
Mhm.
A lot of realtors don't deal with investment properties. They don't fully understand it. They don't comprehend it. And it does take a lot of training and education. So every year I spend $100,000 on training and education, on making sure I keep up to date on different zoning and bylaws and all the networking, as well as some more expensive stuff like Rich Dad and Stefan Arnio, some of the bigger coaching programs. And that way I'm updated on everything. And so I got my license thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to be a realtor and I'll do my own deals.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of people think that, oh, I'll save the commissions. I wouldn't recommend it. If it was just for that purpose, I'd probably be wasting my money on getting my real estate license.
Yeah.
Just do my own deals. It doesn't make sense because it's more challenging to sell your own properties than it is to use a serviceable realtor. And so I just kind of got into that way. Then I started selling properties to a couple of friends and family members, and realizing that I really enjoyed it. So then I started focusing primarily on investors.
Mhm.
And so I would say 85% of my business now comes from investors and repeat clients. You mentioned the JV Queen, and she's bought 6 or 7 properties, I think, this year off of me.
Mhm.
Um, and so I just go out and I spend a lot of time at the beginning really getting to know what the client is looking for, and I want to know exactly what the strategy is and help kind of put together a roadmap. Like, what does the next 3, 6, 12 months look like for you? And then obviously into the 3, 5, 10 years. And I kind of design a package based on what they're looking to do, and I put them in line with a strategy that will work, whether it be a duplex or flips or it be a quad or whatever that situation may be. And then I go out and find them. And so most of the clients I deal with don't actually come with me. I preview properties on my own. And then I basically give them a call when I found the property that I think would fit them. And 9 times out of 10, they put an offer in on it, conditional on home inspection. They go through and check it out at home inspection. And one of the items and one of the areas that I've actually started doing, which has been awesome, is I basically tell a client, if you're going unconditional, I'm only recommending that because I would buy it. So if I put an assignment clause in and you give me 4 weeks notice before it closes and you don't want the property, I will actually switch it to my name and I'll purchase it. So that's been a way that I can establish a little bit more trust even beyond that, to say, hey, you know what? I'm in your court. I'm doing it with you as well, and I'll joint venture with you on it. I'll buy it myself or whatever the situation may be, just to make sure that clients are able to get comfortable with it. And I don't want to force anyone into something, but if there's a really good deal and they're not willing to take it, then someone has to. So I'd rather it be switched to my name or another investor's name than to lose it completely.
Okay, that's interesting. Before we go to the roadmap, I'd like to ask, what was your first property?
My first property was actually a student rental when I went to Laurier. So I went to the university, and my mom had looked at like
Mm-hmm.
what the cost of rent would be, and I looked at the cost of rent. And so she said, you know what, if you're willing to take full responsibility to any losses or any gains, I'm willing to co-sign with you and help you purchase a home when you first moved in. So I said, absolutely, I would. So we started shopping, and I bought my first house at 18. And I ended up making that a student rental. I ended up cashing out maybe $50,000-$60,000 after 5 years. So I didn't make a ton of money on it. But I did learn a lot, and I learned what it was like to be a landlord, and I learned what it's like to try and collect rent and fill with tenants. And so, yeah, it started kind of snowballing from there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to the roadmap of the investor. So how do you help them and have a game plan, particularly for the new investor? What would be your approach to them, especially like they're buying their first investment property?
The first thing that I need to establish is, the first thing is going to be how much capital they have to work with.
Mhm.
But I would say that the next big thing would be, what is their tolerance? Like, what is their risk tolerance? Is it someone who needs a guarantee 5-10%? Is it someone who they're spending their last few dollars on this? What is the situation? Or like for me, for instance, I'll take some pretty big risk because I know that with risk comes reward. So I'm willing to kind of jump through hoops and take the extra stress. Although I know some people that deal with some anxiety and they get really nervous, or if a closing isn't going to happen properly, then they can have a breakdown, and that's no fun for anyone either. So I want to make sure that the investing situation and the whole experience is enjoyable. So I want to find out how much money they have first, like what capital they have to work with, if they've been pre-approved, and then go down the route of what their risk tolerance is like. And then once I have that, we can kind of set out at least some kind of game plan. I mean, doing a duplex conversion is awesome if someone's got a couple $100,000,
Mhm.
and it's low risk for the most part because you know that you're going to be able to rent it out in cash flow. There's also not a whole lot that can go wrong. Obviously, there's always something that can go wrong, but it's not nearly as bad as if you do a 3 or 4 unit or underpinning or knob and tube, some of the more advanced renovations.
Do you help them raise capital, or do you help them find a joint venture partner, if that would be the case?
So I'm of the belief that I would rather own 100% long term of something, although you also take 100% liability. So joint venturing can be a really good way to scale if you're looking at buying a number of properties and you don't want to have a ton of risk. And I know a lot of times you can get capped out for like what you can qualify for. To be honest, it's a bit of a myth that you get capped out because there are ways to strategically finance that you can get unlimited properties. It may not be 80% loan to value and it may not be prime rates, but you can get, like I have a contact right now that I'm working with that I can get basically an unlimited line of credit. It's interest only. And as long as I have a diversified portfolio with insurance and investments, I can go as high as I want. And so, yeah, I mean, it's only 65% loan to value, but it's 1.91 after tax rate. So my rate is really low. And it allows for increased cash flows. It allows for me to pay off my primary residence, which isn't a tax deduction. So I keep increasing the taxes or the tax burden on other properties to make sure that I can have my property paid down as quick as possible. So there's lots of ways to structure it, and I'm more than happy to have that conversation. But again, it's a really detailed conversation that makes more sense if I have someone sitting face to face and I can ask them the questions to at least figure out what their situation would be best with.
That's great. So here's a situational question for you. The first one is, in choosing an investment property for the new investor, what would be your approach if he has a 50 to 80,000 down payment and can qualify for a mortgage?
So a 50 to 80,000 down payment, you'd probably be looking for something turnkey because you wouldn't be able to utilize that type of capital in the areas that I sell anyways, in Hamilton and St. Catharines, Hamilton and Niagara region. It would be challenging for $50,000 to $80,000 to be enough as a down payment. unless they were to use it as a primary residence. So you could potentially have a duplex and do a turnkey duplex where they live in one unit and rent the other unit. But for $50,000, it's basically a 20% down, $250,000 purchase. It's going to be tough to find something like that in either area. Whereas if you go to 80,000, 20% down would be 320,000 as a purchase. So that gets you into kind of single family homes maybe that might be able to give you a rental return, which would still be okay because at 20% down, you should still cash flow a little bit. If someone was to have $200,000, my recommendation would be to buy a bungalow and do a duplex conversion. Usually around $400,000 purchase price and $100,000 in renos. You give a $20,000 contingency if it goes a little over reno budget or if it's a little over 400 grand. But if they were to have 50 to 80,000, I would probably say to put it in education. To be totally honest, maybe not all of it, but I would say spend 20 or 30,000 on education and understand what a joint venture partner is, and maybe they can come to the table and find a second person that has 50 to 80, and they can work together on something that would be a little bit bigger.
And which city would you be able to identify that would fit for this budget?
For 50 to 80,000, you'd probably be looking at Welland, Thorold, maybe Fort Erie. You can do Hamilton still, but you're going to be in areas that you may not want to hold long term. So industrial. I would even almost say a flip, but if you're going to do a flip there, I mean, you say a $200,000 purchase, 20% down is 40. That only gives you 10 to 40,000 for your renovation budget. So it's not much of a flip. And then your cost of sale of 10 to 12% would kind of burn through any profits that you have. So I would say that those secondary Niagara cities would be maybe Niagara Falls.
Okay. So the second question, how about for a person investing who wants no money down? Can you help them?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you have a track record, I can really help you with no money down. If you have no track record and you're a new investor, then what you're going to have to do is look for joint ventures or do wholesale deals, which are awesome. And I would totally like to connect with you if you do that, as I always have buyers for wholesale deals. I would say a wholesale and assignment, rent to own is a great option where you can be the working partner. A joint venture is a great option. You can be the working partner. There's all kinds of ways to make money with no money down. And I'm more than happy to go further in depth on that if you'd like. But I would say those are 4 different options, whether it be assignment, wholesale, joint venture, or rent to own.
How about BTB? Have you done any BTB, vendor take back?
I've worked on a couple, and none of them have come to fruition. Usually it's on larger buildings. It's very rare you'll find a vendor take back on a single family home. Usually it's on a 8, 10, 20. The one I was looking at was a 40 unit apartment building. We were looking at working a 90% vendor take back, and then we were going to put 10% down. And we were actually working on a construction budget on the back too. So it would actually ultimately be about 100% vendor take back because they'd be financing our construction on the back end. So it was an opportunity for them to get rid of the property and for us to improve an underperforming property.
Okay, great. And last question. Investors who have a spare money of $200,000, what would you offer him?
As a return or as a strategy?
Strategy.
So there's 2 strategies that come to mind immediately. First strategy would be to do a bungalow duplex conversion. Actually, 3 strategies. Second strategy would be to buy a turnkey triplex or fourplex. And third strategy would be to be a private investor, be the bank. So there's a number of people out there that will basically pay you a good return on investment. I mean, I'm paying anywhere between 14 and 17% right now for hard money loans. And it's a promissory note that we put together basically gets locked in against a property if there was a default. So there is security. It's locked against the property. And yeah, that would be my take on $200,000. $200,000, as I mentioned before, would basically be able to do a duplex conversion if we got the right price on it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dylan, for your time, and looking forward to you for the next there's probably there's a part 2 of this one and more of that phase 2, the hierarchy of Maslow. And I appreciate your time, and we'll talk for maybe a few weeks time, and let's set the deal. Okay, bye for now, Dylan.
All right, looking forward to it.